I've stuck up for people that are on the other side because I don't like how they're treated. In fact, there was a whole argument over, the fact that I didn't agree with how even Cara was spoken to.
Can we not just give the usernames to the police? Because the police can track them
Yeah,
down.
I suppose we could. Yeah, we need to do it en masse, though. They've been given the option to stop. I think they think that we're joking. I'm not joking. I'm really not joking. And tagging me in posts saying, oh, nay, we're not scared of you, blah, blah, blah. I'm not a threat. I'm not threatening you. I'm not threatening you with violence. I'm not threatening you with doxing. I wouldn't do that. That isn't how I behave. But I will say this, I will do something about it because I think it's harassment. I'm just like, honestly, I'm being nice to you. I have a family of fucking lawyers and friends that are lawyers and people that deal with this on a regular basis. You honestly think I haven't asked?
I put my hand up because regarding this, because obviously I've been listening to the conversation since I came in, I just wonder whether actually there is anything that you can report or do about it. And this is why, because Twitter and Spaces, it's a public space, isn't it? Right? You can't make it private. So if you have like an open Twitter account and all the rest of it, it's a bit like walking down the street or sitting in the park. There's no expectation of privacy. So if we were sitting in the park and someone was recording us, we can say as much as we want, we don't consent, but it makes no difference. No action can be taken against the person because there is no expectation of privacy. I know it's frustrating. I mean, there was a space where me and Jasmine were talking and I got recorded by the other listener, which I didn't know. And I didn't know it was posted and I was cringing so much. I was like, oh my God, I thought it was silly of me to think, oh yeah, this is just between me and Jasmine, right? But I hadn't wanted it to be as public as it was made, but I guess that's on me for saying it all in a Twitter space, which I know everyone in the world can access. Do you know what I mean?
Let me give you just one example, and I'm not an expert on this. There's a very interesting case that came down in Utah, a state in the United States. It's the Mormon state. Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They changed state law demanding that Pornhub guarantee to the state of Utah that anybody who lived in the state of Utah accessing Pornhub was over 18. State laws still are active in the United States, even though this is a quote-unquote public space. What I was trying to get across in my last comment is that we are in a structure. That structure is handled and covered by numerous state, federal, and international laws. And so they interact and overlap in very complex manners. And so it's different than me walking down the street and somebody taking a photograph. It's different.
Morning. Have I cut out?
I can hear you. I don't know if everyone else. I can.
Yeah. It's interesting stuff. Sometimes I don't like to give it credence to talk about it again, but I suppose it's necessary. I know some people are getting, quite upset about the whole thing. I don't honestly give a fuck. They can go ahead. I don't listen to them. I get told what some of them are, or I get sent them, whatever. I wouldn't even give them a watch. I genuinely don't. I just hear back, oh, really? Have you nothing better to do than listen to me? The only rule I could think of, would be the right to a private life, which is a human right. And that would be something that would probably be something we would look at if we were taking them to task. I haven't listened to all the recordings, so I don't want to actually upset myself because I don't know whether. Well, actually, I'd probably be laughing, and I'm probably one of the people that's targeted most in Clyde and Isla, and
Oh,
and mhm.
I'm really sorry. Listen, I've listened to a few of them. I will admit I have gone on the YouTube and listened to some. And the ones that I've heard you in, actually, you're not even portrayed in a bad light. It's been quite amusing, quite funny
It is
listening to you.
interesting, isn't it?
There's nothing horrible that I've heard in the ones I've listened to. So don't worry.
Oh no, you see, that's the thing. I don't worry, but I do find it interesting that I'm not. I mean, there's plenty of things I say that you could probably cut and they sound terrible. So it is interesting to me. And then in one of them, I do know that they called me R Bell. So there's certain people I know definitely isn't. And I have my suspicions about who it is, but I don't speak that out loud. I've had a couple of private conversations on the phone with people, and maybe a couple of people who are upset or whatever. And and then there's other people who I haven't spoken to yet, who I know, are fragile people. They're quite fragile people, and I do worry that they're being bullied and harassed. And I kind of want to reach out, but I don't want to, end up, I don't want to end up with a whole lot of stuff. I've been staying away, so they maybe don't have as much on me. But, there's plenty of spaces you can go into, and plenty of things you record on me that would sound worse, which kind of annoys me more, because it's just like, why are you keeping me on side? What's that about? What do you think, Neigh?
I told you, Belfast, I've listened to yours, and they're astonishingly commonplace. Like, once in a while there's something off color in there, but they're not amazing. Like, where I would
Yeah,
say,
some of
oh,
my
I'm going to
off-color
record
stuff.
this. And believe it or not, that's something that confuses me. Like, they're just recording
Yeah,
spaces. They're not, like, outstanding they're not funny.
I kind of find it very strange. It's not about, there's a big difference between the other listener and Lady Laments. I mean, the other listener goes out of their way to humiliate. Really do. They really go out of their way to humiliate. And it is very, very targeted harassment on that one. I don't agree with any of it. I don't agree with either. I've never agreed with either. I don't agree with what, other people do. I really don't agree
well, I
with it.
happened to pop into space last night. I happened to pop into space last night on a group avatar that I have, and I went in under that name because I was just interested. I just happened to note I was sort of looking at the account and saying, well, will I add anything to this? And then I noticed a space up at the top and popped into that space just to listen while I was scrolling through, and I heard that Twithead Mike, and all I heard was somebody saying, "Oh, well, I sent Belfast a message the other day, and she was earlier on today, and it was very gracious because somebody had been attacked by someone, and they had sent me a message saying, in case they had to apologize to me, and I went, look, I don't know who this person is, and because I was a feminist apparently, and I was just like, all right, okay, look, I have no idea what this is about, but apparently it was about EJ. It was in the EJ space on the Thursday, and I'm never in those spaces. I wouldn't give that airtime. But so I popped in, and just serendipitously, all I heard was, well, Belfast sent me a message the other day, and she was or today, and she was very gracious. But now you're saying she's talking flack, right? And I'm like, oh. And then your man Mike's going, yeah, it's unfortunate. Now I've never interacted with this Mike person, but I know of him. But yeah, I don't know what exactly he's supposed to have said. But
Who
I
was the
spoke
other
to him.
account who said gracious?
Oh, that's it was Father. What do you call him? Father, whatever.
Could you say it again? You cut out.
Oh, it was the
Father
Father
somebody.
Christopher person.
Yeah, Father
The
Christopher.
pastor guy?
Yes, well, he's Catholic priest. Um, so, and
Yeah,
Supposedly.
supposedly.
right, well, I've only met him a couple of times. And
You've met him in real life?
no, sorry, on Spaces. So I don't know why he
Okay.
singled me out to speak to. But apparently he had a problem in EJ's space, and somebody was going, "I'm not your father. You know, I'm not going to call you father. You're not my daddy," or whatever. I don't know who it was. It was some a feminist account calling themselves feminist. I'm not following them. They're not following me. I've never heard of them before, but they were in EJ's space apparently. So there was a whole problem, and the guy was upset about it. But I'd gone in to listen to the rosary because it's my mother's birthday. You know, it's a tradition from long ago.
Yeah, I'm curious why
Yeah.
the pastor guy would think you were gracious. Did you interact with the pastor guy?
No, he'd sent me a DM, and I said, "Look, don't worry about it. You know, there's people on here that you'll fall out with. It's strangers on the internet. Try not to worry about it. You know,
It was
because
because,
apparently,
so what had happened was I'd asked, so we had a space on Sunday, and I was very curious about this guy because he'd come into spaces, and I thought that was very, very strange behaviour for someone who's Catholic and a priest to come into a space. I was like, what are you doing in these kind of spaces? Because there are spaces that are very religious, and they talk about and they pray and they do stuff, and that I would expect to find priests and, you know, imams and whatever else in there. But what I wouldn't expect them to do is come into TERF spaces and, you know, tune spaces and stuff
and
like that. And that's
classes.
what the conversation was about. And one of the people that was speaking
Yeah.
didn't take too kindly to this guy, and had sort of said some things about him. And Mike had tagged me in posts and said, you know, he disagreed. Essentially, you can read it. You can go on the space and find it yourself. I'm not going to repeat it. And he was basically saying there's a big difference between a missionary priest and a priest that works within a church.
A
You know,
pastor.
I'm not familiar enough with it. I don't care enough about religion. I just thought it was strange that this guy was in our spaces. So
To
crazy.
put it as politely as I can, I was shocked that a pastor was in a space with Holly and Kara and Mike and all those Chandler, considering the words that they use. Forget about it, the vulgarity and how crude they are. It's completely improper. I don't believe that guy's a pastor for 15
Yeah,
seconds.
I just wanted to know what other people's thoughts were because, you know, I don't come in contact with these people in real life. So hence the question. And I think actually the question was towards Mike of all things because he does go to mass, I think it is. And I'd said to him, "What do you think of this guy?" And that was what opened the whole can of worms, which I never really meant to do. I just kind of wanted to know, you know, I know you're Catholic, so therefore, is that strange behaviour? That was really the question.
Welcome, Seema. Seema, can you turn your microphone on?
Hey guys.
Hi.
Hi. I just came in to clear up about Sunday.
This is domestic, P?
Yes. The situation with
Amazing.
Father Chris.
There's a reason I block you, because I don't want you in my spaces, so you come in on an alt. Okay, go ahead.
About Sunday with Father Chris. Anne-Marie was having a space, and she asked, "Who is this Mike person? Shall I let him up?" And everyone, apart from myself, agreed, yeah, let him up. Then we were having a conversation that Mike prompted about all of the various males who have been in women's spaces, in these Twitter spaces, causing trouble between all the women. And he said, "What do you think, domestic? You've got your handle on them." And I said, "Yes, well, there was this one and there was that one. And now the women are starting to cozy up to this Father Chris." And that's how Father Chris came into the conversation. I brought him up to say he's an absolute scumbag. All right. And please stop trying to put me into spaces with Mike and the transgenders, because that's just ridiculous. All right. If anyone wants to watch all of those spaces, you don't find me hanging around with transgenders. It's all the rest of you hanging around with transgenders and feeling sorry for them. That was all I had to say. Thanks, guys.